This is LXBN TV, and I'm Colin O'Keefe. The subject of employers requesting the Facebook credentials of employees and applicants has become an extremely popular topic on the LexBlog Network and elsewhere this week. To discuss this issue, we bring in Daniel Schwartz of Pullman and Comley and the Connecticut Employment Law Blog. Dan, starting off with the most basic of questions, is this practice legal?
In many states, probably yes. I think, employers could conceivably ask applicants for passwords. That's in a general sense, but there are some specific laws that may prohibit it, including the Stored Communications Act, and there may run afoul of some privacy laws as well. I think it gets into a larger issue, though, of just because something is legal doesn't mean that employers should be doing this practice. And I think universally the consensus has been probably not. It doesn't foster good communications, doesn't foster a good relationship, and can lead to a lot more issues down the road than is probably worth it for the applicant and for the information gleaned.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. And suppose an employee is searching a social network, maybe even without the credentials of the person that they're looking up, and they find information and then potentially make an employment decision based on that. What type of risks do they run of taking action based on information they find on a social networking site?
Well, there's a couple of issues, but the first and the example that I like to give is suppose you're doing a search on a social media site and you see a picture of an employee at a gay pride parade. In many states that prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation, you can't use that information to make a decision. It's also pretty hard to unlearn something once you see it. So, for employers, they run a risk that if they learn that information, it may be presumed that they used that information in making the decision. So the safer bet is to not learn it in the first place. And you can do that through using some screening services. There's a company out there called Social Intelligence, which will do those searches for you and only relay the information which you can use to make a decision. The other thing that you can do is use perhaps a person internally who can screen that information and only use that information that is legal to do and pass it on to the decision maker. So, using social networking sites willy-nilly for searches probably isn't the best practice for an employer at this stage.
Yeah, there's a lot of trouble that employers can get in going that route. And then finally, what does this practice of potentially asking for employee or potential employee passwords do on a personal relationship level? I mean, surely you don't want your employees to resent you or be paranoid. So, what's the alternative to asking for Facebook credentials? And I think you touched on that a little bit already.
Yeah, in some ways, it's what's the message you're sending to applicants. If the message to applicants or even to your employees is you're not to have a life outside this workplace. We are to know everything about you. We are Big Brother, in essence. It's probably not fostering a relationship based on trust and based on giving employees a little bit of their privacy. In this age of information, we can also get overloaded with too much information. Do you really need to know that your employees went to the Lollapalooza concert in Chicago? Or even, the example I gave on my blog many months back is there was a sort of rave that some of the younger people were going to. Do you really care that they went to a Dayglow concert? So I think fostering the relationship based on trust and based on a mutual respect is a good basis for your employer to make decisions on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's just so many reasons why this really isn't the best of ideas, from the information that you may see that you don't need to see, and then things coming down the road. You hear things about possible legislation, Facebook saying, we may get involved if this gets too bad. So it's going to be interesting to watch going forward.
And that's really a good point, which is, right now it's the hot topic. Many of us who have been writing on this subject have written about it for many years, so it's not new to us. But Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut has indicated he's going to propose a bill on it. There are bills pending in states like Maryland. So we're likely to see some legislation on it, and I think the safest course for employers is the easiest one, which is don't ask for passwords. You probably don't need them, and be careful on doing searches on social media to begin with.
Definitely. Well, it's going to be an interesting one to watch going forward. It's the flavor of the week this week with everyone talking about it, but still it's an important issue. Once again, that was Daniel Schwartz of Pullman and Conley and the Connecticut Employment Law Blog. For more on this story, be sure to check out ctemploymentlawblog.com and, of course, lxbn.lexblog.com, where we have a ton of posts on this subject. Be sure to check that out. It's definitely worth reading. Thanks again for your time on this, Dan.
Thank you, Colin.